Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat malam teman-teman semua. Kembali bertemu dengan saya Agus Setiawan Basuni dalam program WartaJazz Talks, sebuah program yang didesain untuk mendapatkan insight atau percakapan dengan tamu yang tentu saja spesial yang kita hadirkan. Dan kali ini kita akan ditemani dengan rekan saya dari Yogyakarta. Selamat malam, Assalamualaikum Mas Aji Wartono.
Selamat malam, Mas Agus.
Sehat ya?
Waalaikumsalam.
So everybody, welcome to WartaJazz Talks. WartaJazz Talk is designed to have a deep conversation with the guests, special guests that we always have. And tonight, me, Agus Setiawan Basuni, live from WartaJazz House Gallery in Jakarta, together with my colleague Aji Wartono in WartaJazz office in Yogyakarta. Saya ingin memperkenalkan dan mungkin kesempatan ini saya ingin berikan ke Mas Aji untuk mengintroduce atau memperkenalkan siapa tamu kita yang hadir pada malam hari ini. Silakan Mas Aji.
Ya, tamu kita malam ini istimewa sekali. Jadi beberapa tahun lalu pernah juga mengadakan konser berkeliling di Indonesia ya. Dan dia bersama istrinya. Jadi ini ada seorang gitaris yang album barunya ini sangat sangat bagus sekali ya. Sangat inspiratif sekali. Ada Pak Marc van, nah bacanya.
Marc van Vugt, ya.
Van Vugt.
Ya.
Ya. Oke. Halo.
Halo.
Pak Marc.
Hai, Pak Aji.
We will in the conversation about you, about your music, about your album, and everything about your music ya, especially. Ya. Oke, Mas Agus.
Jadi malam hari ini teman-teman kita kedatangan tamu spesial dari Belanda, namanya Marc van Vugt. Dia seorang gitaris jazz tentu saja dan sudah pernah datang ke Indonesia beberapa kali. Nanti kita akan ngobrol. So Marc, how are you? How is the situation in Netherlands? Is it?
Hello to you all. Thank you for having me at Warta, and salam alaikum. Sorry, I don't speak Bahasa, so my English should do, I hope. We're doing fine here. I hope you are all doing fine. It's been so long that I saw you all. I am also seeing Purwanto.
Yes.
He's there. Wow, so great to see you all. It's been 3 years or 4 years that I saw you, and so much happened in between. And I've been worried about your country, of course, and about everyone, because it's been a strange time. Yes, absolutely. But we're doing fine now. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Before we talking about your recent album, which has good critics, I would say, across continents, let's go back to the very basic stuff. Some people may already know you in Indonesia, but I think there were also some people who, just curious, who is this guy? And yeah, perhaps you can tell the Indonesian audience your musical background a little bit and what you were doing in the last couple of years. And then we're going to talk about the album later on. Go ahead.
Yes, for sure. It's very certain that a lot of people don't know me because Indonesia is so big. And even though we've been to Indonesia for about 3 or 4 times, it's too big for that. I do recognize that. So I'd like to introduce myself. Yeah, that's no problem. I'm a composer and a guitar player. I grew up in the Netherlands, mostly with pop music. The first music I listened to was pop music, the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel. That's what I grew up with in the beginning. And when I heard the first song of the Beatles that I listened to was A Hard Day's Night. And when I heard that first chord, I was mesmerized. I was totally absorbed by the sound, and I thought, wow, this is what I wanted to do. So I wanted to play the guitar. I wanted to make my own music. And I've done that for a long time, had my own bands. I started when I was about 18 working with a band called Bisikan, which was a Brazilian jazz group. For a lot of years, I listened to a lot of South American music. So I had a lot of influences from Brazilian music. And I had this band with my friend, Ineke van Doren, who's my wife. And we started that band together with my brother. And that's how we started in the beginning. And we played a lot. And after that, I had my schooling for composition and electric guitar at the conservatory in Utrecht. And after that, I started just going out touring around the world. We had our own quartet, quintet. Then we collaborated with a lot of musicians from the United States, like the saxophonist Thomas Chapin, who sadly died in 1998, 25 years ago. He was a great saxophone player, alto saxophone player. We also collaborated with Robin Eubanks, the trombone player who plays with Dave Holland. We worked with Kenny Wheeler, a lot of musicians, Don Thompson, the Canadian bass player. And we toured around the world with our own groups. Then we also started a big band, sort of a jazz chamber orchestra, Big Bizarre Habit, which is an orchestra with a string quartet and 3 horn players, rhythm section, voice, and we recorded several albums with that. And well, I've been teaching a lot as well as a teacher at the HKU University, teaching composition, guitar. And well, we've recorded a lot of albums, sort of 12 albums. My latest recording is, I think, the 12th or the 13th, which is actually my first solo guitar album. What else? In 2003, we visited Indonesia for the first time. We were there, invited by the Erasmus House, and we toured mostly on Java. We played in Bandung, Jakarta, and Semarang, and played on some big festivals. And then we returned in 2011 to Bali, where we were for about 5 to 6 weeks, working there, composing new music, collaborating with a gamelan group on Bali. And then we had the idea we have to come back and do some more collaborations. And then in 2019, we were invited again, and we played in Jakarta, Yogyakarta, and Bandung. And in Yogyakarta, in Jakarta, we had a collaboration with Gerald Sitomarang and Sri Hanuraga. They played with us at the Erasmus House. And then in Yogyakarta, we had a great collaboration with gamelan percussion players, of which one was Purwanto. And we had a great time doing that. So that's about our Indonesian history. We have a lot of friends that we connected with. And I'm very pleased that we can now talk about my album here in this Warta Jazz Talk. And I'm very pleased that you're having me as a guest.
Thank you, Mark.
That's about it.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, of course, everybody can check out your website to get more detailed information about the projects. And of course, I do know that some of your colleague, like in Big Bizarre Habit, like Paul Pankemanat and George, who also like especially George has been like very frequent coming to Indonesia, especially Yogyakarta, playing in our festival over there in WartaJazz. Now I would like to pass on mic to Mas Aji. But before that, I also would like to encourage everybody, if anyone is interested to ask question, feel free. Or you can also join our Zoom session here. The link is available in our website and it's free. You can just simply sign up. Yeah, you can also type your questions in our Instagram chat. So like 25 people is already joining in our Instagram account. So thank you for joining in, and we are having a conversation. Kami malam hari ini bercakap-cakap dengan Marc van Vugt, seorang gitaris jazz dari Belanda, dan juga ada tamu dari Yogyakarta, Mas Purwanto dari Vertigong. Oke, Mas Haji, silakan mungkin dengan pertanyaan pertama terkait dengan album yang baru saja dirilis ya, The Lonely Coyote. Silakan Mas.
Okay, Mark. I have several question about this album.
Yes.
The first, why you name the title is Lonely Coyote? Yeah, it's why the coyote? Yeah.
Okay.
And the second, it's why you decided make the solo guitar album, and maybe you can tell us about that. Maybe you when when you decided kapan kamu when you decided the make the album, and why the solo guitar?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a nice question. Thank you. The Lonely Coyote. I collaborate a lot with my wife, Ineke van Doorn, the singer, jazz singer, with whom I came to Indonesia. You know her. We sometimes go somewhere to be inspired by the environment, and we stay there for a while to work. We do that sometimes, you know, like every 2 years, we try to go to a country or a place and then stay there for a while and then work on music, sort of like a residency. And I did the same in 2011 in San Diego, in America. And we stayed near a house of friends in the mountains of San Diego. This is the desert outside of San Diego on the border of Mexico. And this is very dry, hilly country. And I was working there, and I had a sort of old sea container as my workplace. And I was working in that container. And then sometimes I would go out in my breaks, and I would look into the fields, and I would hear the coyotes, because this is desert, and they are around all the time. And my friends had a dog, and the coyotes would always howl to lure the dog, to try to get the dog to come out, because they wanted to catch the dog. And then one day I went out, and I saw that one coyote in the field looking at me. And I felt connected to the coyote, because it's like how I was feeling how I feel when I compose. I'm alone there in the field of music, and I'm just me and the music. Just like that coyote was there, just alone in the field. And that inspired me to write that song, The Lonely Coyote. So that's about The Lonely Coyote. I wrote that tune as an inspiration or as a tribute to Egberto Gismonti, who's the Brazilian composer, guitar player, and who's a magician in using harmonies and melodies. And I wanted to write a tune where the melody sometimes goes away from the harmony and comes back into the harmony. And that Lonely Coyote is a bit like that. Sometimes the melody is sort of going somewhere, and then it comes back to the chords again. It's a bit of let's say, a train ride, and it takes you everywhere. That's my idea about The Lonely Coyote. about the using just the guitars. I'm a guitar lover. I know in Indonesia there's a lot of guitar lovers, so having my album brought to Indonesia, I think that's a privilege because there's so many great guitar players in Indonesia, and I know people love the guitar. It's the same for me. It started when I was 12, and I've always loved the sound of strings, of guitar strings and stuff like that. And for me, it's the first instrument. And a lot of the songs I wrote, I have written for larger ensembles, for big band, for orchestra, for choir, for bigger ensembles. But I wanted to go back to just me and the guitar, you know, nothing else. And just me and the guitar, nowhere to hide. You know, when you just have a guitar, one guitar, it's very naked. It's very fragile. Everything can be heard. And that's a challenge. And I love to do that. And that's why I wanted to make an album with all these songs. Some of them I did with bigger ensembles, and now I play them in a small group, just me and the guitar. That's what I wanted to do. And not just one guitar, but I've used, I think, 9 different guitars or something, or 8. And they all have their own story. What is so beautiful about the guitar? Yes, sorry.
Then the next question, Mark, you are using the several guitar in this album, yeah? And I'm curious, when you decided this guitar play for this composition, and the different guitar play in the other composition, and how you decided about that?
Which guitar for which composition?
Yes.
Yeah. Most of the time, the guitar decided, not me. It's
interesting.
It's interesting because I'm a trained guitar player. I studied guitar at the university, and we learn to express ourselves through the instrument. But the funny thing with guitar is some things you cannot play on some guitars because it just doesn't fit. And if you listen to the guitar, you start to hear whether the guitar likes what you're going to be playing. Do you understand? It's almost as if the guitar tells me, okay, this song is okay on this guitar. It sounds a bit strange, but it's almost as if the guitar tells me in my ear, this sounds good. You strike a chord, and then you realize this works on this guitar. So you have to try out. You have to find out. For instance, I have a baritone guitar. It's a very big guitar. It goes low. It goes 4 steps down from a regular guitar. So it's very low. It's almost a bass. But because it's so low in tune, you cannot play fast. It doesn't sound right. And also you cannot play too many notes at the same time because it doesn't work well. So the Lonely Coyote is played on a baritone guitar, and it's very open and very atmospheric, and that works on a baritone. But for instance, the last tune, No Worries, is a pretty fast tune. And you cannot play that on a baritone. It needs a fast sound. So it's the guitar telling me what to do, and it's like that.
Yeah. And you compose first, or you decided want to play this guitar?
That's 2 different things for me.
Okay.
I compose because I hear music in my head, and I want to write that down. I want to make a song from what I hear in my head or what I feel in my heart. And then I look for, can I play it on that instrument? And sometimes it's the other way around. I play the instrument and it tells me, oh, this is nice. I play a chord and I think, oh yeah, that sounds good. Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think this album is the beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes
Thank you.
Make me feeling lonely but not sad.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Okay,
Very
I need to
inspiring.
warn everyone that we had a little bit glitches here, so you may disconnect it in very moments. Please reconnect immediately before we're gonna play a song from this album that we're talking about. And also, thank you for everyone who joining in. I know there are a lot of friends doing rebroadcasting our broadcasts through their messages. Thank you for Bayanti from KLCBS Radio in Bandung. Also, Mas Dwi Rahmat from Bogor, picking up a specific guitar for a specific compositions. Isn't it a little bit quote unquote challenging for you if you wanna, for example, perform that for live? Because technically speaking, it was recorded with different kind of guitars, but I suppose that you are only having like a 2-3 guitars when you are traveling. What would be the solution?
Yeah, that's a problem. I'm thinking about that. That's a good question. It's not an easy one to answer. Also, because I'm still working on how I'm going to be doing that. At the moment in the Netherlands, if I go to a concert, my solo concert, I bring about 7 guitars or 5, and then I can play all the tunes. But if I would be traveling to Indonesia, which I would definitely like to, then it would be a big problem. I can do it on 3 probably. If necessary, I can do it, of course, on 1. But it's a different story, because it's the beauty about this project is all these different sounds, and it's part of what makes it nice to have all these different sounds, and especially for people who love the guitar, I'm sure they all enjoy the fact that there's so much different sounds going on. So yeah, that's not an easy one.
Okay, I think we would like to listen. The first composition that we're gonna play is the same title as the album. So this is the Lonely Coyote. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the music. sebuah komposisi yang menarik dengan permainan solo gitar dari seorang Marc van Vugt, gitaris dari Belanda. Dan saya ingin kembali ke Mas Aji Wartono mungkin. Tadi ada pertanyaan yang sempat terputus ya pada saat tadi kita pergantian switch tadi dari sistem di Zoom. Silakan Mas Aji dilanjut lagi tadi pertanyaannya.
Ya, oke, Mark. I opened your website and this album is the roots from the Bill Connors, Pat Metheny, and Egberto Gismonti, then Wartono, ya. And how you connecting with them, with the musical, their music.
Mark, sorry for your mic.
Yes, I'm back. Thank you. I feel very connected to these people. They say my music is very alike the music of Ralph Towner, Bill Connors, Gismonti, Pat Metheny, those kind of musicians. They've been a very great inspiration. I think every guitar player knows, of course, Pat Metheny, and is, I think, one of the giants of our time. He's an incredible musician, an incredible composer, and I feel connected to his music. For a long time, I tried to avoid to listen to his music, not to be influenced too much. But you cannot, you cannot avoid his influence. Ralph Towner and Egberto Gismonti are, for me, part of the first music that I heard listening to Brazilian music. There's an album from Egberto Gismonti called Sol do Meio-Dia. And Sol do Meio-Dia, there's a piece called Café. And it's recorded with Egberto Gismonti, Ralph Towner, Colin Walcott playing percussion and tabla, and Jan Garbarek. And that one piece just changed my life. I heard that piece and that was a huge influence. That was really big. And Bill Connors, not many people know Bill Connors. Bill Connors was part of Return to Forever before Chicoria.
Yeah, and the first
version. Yeah. And he stopped playing in Return to Forever and then started to study classical guitar. And he made one or two albums just solo guitar, and they are just amazing. It's just beautiful music. So it's my connection is that they are a great inspiration, and I like to be inspired by other musicians. And so does that answer the question? Is that an answer to your question?
Yes. But Pat Metheny, okay. It's the big name, yeah. Ralph Towner, Egberto, and Bill Connors is great guitarist, and I think it's their album is the roots for their solo guitar, like the ECM styles in their album. Nah, I'm curious about you this album style like ECM is like the tone of ECM song and like that. Maybe you can explain about that.
About the influence of ACM?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, ECM as a record label has been a huge influence. As soon as you start to listen to music that is not traditional jazz, you somehow will end up listening to ECM music. And when I grew up, there was a lot of albums coming out from Terje Ripdahl, Pat Metheny, Kenny Wheeler, Norma Winston, you know, a lot of people, Ralph Towner, they all recorded on ECM. And so for me, it has been a huge influence. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it also has to do with the sound of the recordings. The ECM recordings have a very huge, you know, very nice, warm sound. Yeah.
Oke, silakan Mas Agus.
And what is also interesting for me is apart from that, the ECM is like quote unquote the largest influence in terms of the label in Europe among other labels in many countries. It's also when we look at the how you describe yourself, that you are painting sounds. It's really interesting. You know, maybe you can elaborate more about what you're trying to describe with this statement.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, how shall I explain this? To me, I feel very connected to painters when I see a painter and I see how they work with paint and composition in a painting. I feel very connected as a composer, because to me, it's almost the same. I feel like as if a composition is like a picture you draw, and the sound is like all the colors. For me, sound is really like colors. When I was like, I think 10 years old, for a birthday, I got a big box of pencils to draw with. And they had like, I think 40 different colors. A big box with 40 different colors of pencils. And I thought, wow, I can make all these beautiful drawings with all these colors. But actually, I'm a very bad painter, and I'm a very bad, I cannot draw really well. But when in music, when I write for an orchestra, or when I collaborate with musicians, to me, the sound is like using these different colors. And with a big orchestra, it's like, you know, a color of violins and a color of clarinets, or a color of percussion. And in the guitar, it's simpler. It's just the guitar, but it's the guitar with the harmonies and the melodies and the rhythm, and they're all colors. So it's kind of the same thing. And when I collaborate with musicians, I'm always intrigued by different sounds. One of the big revelation or very inspiring moment was when I was working with Purwanto, with the gamelan, and hearing how the gamelan would combine with our music. You know, that's so interesting, because it's a very different culture, different country. Everything is different, and then you bring that into your music, and that is so beautiful. I think that's the beauty in music, is that you can use all these influences.
And that's sort of like a blank canvas that you're bringing in. And what you just said, the Purwanto is like a part of the elements that, you know, you are really can decide how you would like to make these things up. And that's also being in a moment. I would like to pointing out Purwanto by having his comments on this, but let us listen to this one. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the Sunny Side Up. What was the story behind that?
Yeah, the Sunny Side Up. We travel a lot around the world. We do a lot of tours. Most of the time, I do this together with Ineke, my wife, and then we tour around the world. And we are most of the time, you know, received by the people that invite us. And then you know, you stay in a country and then you get to know the customs of a country. And what is always nice is how breakfasts are, because that's the morning after a concert. And there's a breakfast and you sit down and it's a good moment and you eat with a good feeling. And it's everywhere, it's different. In Indonesia, it's very different from our breakfast. And in America, it's again, very different. And in America, they always like to, or in Canada, they always like to have eggs for breakfast. And sunny side up is a way of frying an egg. It's a fried egg. Eh?
Interesting.
With the yolk in the middle. It's like the sun. The sun is on the upside. And I like the word. They call it sunny side up, the fried egg. And I like that word, but it's because it's also expressing the feeling of a morning, a good morning with the sun coming up. And that's why I wrote that song, Sunny Side Up.
I suppose you enjoying the telur mata sapi, just, you know, that's the custom that we do have in Indonesia. But let's talk about that more right after we listen to this one. Teman-teman, kita akan nikmati dulu satu komposisi kembali dari Marc van Vugt. Kali ini judulnya adalah Sunny Side Up, yang ternyata ini adalah cerita soal telur ya. Oke, teman-teman, selamat menikmati. Dan jangan lupa untuk berikan komentar Anda di kolom komentar di akun Instagram. Enjoy. Ya, demikian tadi satu komposisi kembali dari album The Lonely Coyote, Guitar Tales dari Marc van Vugt. Mark, the one that we just listened to is sounded like a very grande. I suppose that it's really perfect using of the guitar. Which guitar that you use in this particular song?
Okay. I couldn't stop. I couldn't. Okay. Can you hear me now? But now I don't hear you.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's okay. This song, I recorded this song with about 8 guitars, I think. So the main guitar you hear in the beginning is a Martin 0021. It's a Martin guitar from 1943. It's an old one. And then I used a 12-string and a Loudon guitar and a small Tacoma guitar and a bass guitar, and that's about it, I think. Yeah. So it's a huge sound, but it's a lot of guitars. I wanted one song with at least all the guitars there. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is one of the interesting track in this album. I mean, to me personally, that I would like to keep listening to, and once I get to know about the meaning of the song, that's even like it could be perfect for the radio station to play this in the morning because this will be completely spicing up your you're starting your day with a good breakfast.
Yeah, thank you.
and
Yeah,
and speaking
actually,
about the go ahead, you want to say something?
Yeah. Well, actually, we since a couple of months we do have a radio show in the Netherlands. I do together with Ineke. Once a month, we have a program on the radio about Dutch jazz music. And the first song we play as a tune is this one.
So I'm correct.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's I mean it's really radio friendly, I would say, and very giving you an energy, especially in the morning.
Yeah.
And speaking about the elements we're talking about, jadi Mas Purwanto, barusan kita ngomongin soal elemen dan Mark sangat tertarik dengan apa yang teman-teman di Jogja lakukan pada saat dia datang di 2019 dan melakukan apa namanya kolaborasi gitu ya. Dan tadi saya membahasakan itu seperti sebuah kanvas yang kosong begitu dan setiap orang datang dengan elemen musik masing-masing lalu kemudian mewarnai atau memperkaya khasanah atau dialog apa namanya kesenian yang terjadi. Mas Purwanto mungkin setelah mendengarkan lagu ini juga dan dengan pengalaman Anda berinteraksi dengan Marc van Vugt dan waktu itu Ineke van Doren, seperti apa mengomentari? Tapi sebelumnya saya ingin menyampaikan ke teman-teman, jadi tadi belum sempat diperkenalkan, ini adalah Mas Purwanto, seorang maestro, musisi yang pastinya sangat terkenal. Bahasa lainnya mungkin kalau Anda nggak kenal, Mbak, Anda kemana nih? Gitu, karena Mas Purwanto adalah motor di balik kelompok besar ya, Kwa Etnika dan juga sekarang aktif dengan Vertigongnya. Silakan Mas Pur.
Oke, senang sekali ada di event ini. Mark, selamat albumnya. Nanti mohon ditranslate Mas Agus. Mas Agus. Bisa saya paham yang diomongkan. Ini dengar ini.
Ya, terdengar Mas. Mark, Purwanto just said congratulations for the album. So, ya, silakan lanjutkan.
Thank you. Terima kasih.
Oh, itu batik di belakang itu bagus sekali. Jadi begini, Mark. Album yang barusan saya dengar walaupun nampaknya sederhana tapi sangat rumit, kompleks. Hebatnya Mark seperti yang dulu saya lihat adalah dengan satu alat musik gitar, dia bisa cerita dengan runtut menggambarkan apa yang Mark tangkap. Itu sesuatu yang seperti perilaku orang tradisi, karena perbedaannya sebenarnya begini. Kalau musik barat kan dipelajari untuk dimengerti, sementara kalau musik-musik tradisi itu biasanya dimengerti untuk dipelajari. Jadi ada
mungkin sampai situ dulu Mas, supaya saya nggak kesulitan nanti mentranslasi ya. So what Purwanto just said is there are two different kind of approach to the music. Probably in a Western part, they learning to understand, but the other side, they understanding to learn. So this kind of concept is a different kind of approach, but somehow it's like a collide. And at the same time, Purwanto was appraising your intensive work. You sounded very beautifully in just using one kind of instrument, which is guitar, although it is a different kind of guitar. And you are, how to say that, you like can speak fluently with that guitar, that you can say from A to Z, you know, so really explaining the whole thing, that like it's like nothing that's miss, you know, something like that. Ya, silakan dilanjut Mas Pur.
Iya, itu yang saya maksud, bahwa Mark sangat dalam tanda petik dewasa dan bermain. Jadi untuk menunjukkan kehebatan tidak harus ditunjukkan dengan akrobatik permainan, tapi mampu menerjemahkan pikiran dalam bentuk musikal, kemudian runtut, kemudian ya itu menurut saya sangat dewasa dalam bermain. Dia bisa menceritakan dengan mudah dan bisa dimengerti, sekalipun hanya dengan musik kita. Satu lagi, equalisis, cara mengatur suara kemudian dengan satu alat sehingga terkesan grande, itu juga sesuatu yang luar biasa di luar kemampuan teknis. Artinya itu adalah bantuannya, tapi itu sangat hebat menurut saya pilihan itu. Gitu.
So what you did, Mark, is very brilliant. It sounded very simple, yet he knows that it's complicated. So again, it's 2 thumbs up for your great work in this last album. Oke, mungkin Mas Aji ada yang mau ditanyakan sebelum nanti kita coba pilih satu komposisi lagi untuk kita nikmati.
Oke, saya tidak tahu apa yang akan diputar Mas Agus.
Can I interrupt before you start?
Sure.
First of all, thank you to Purwanto. Yeah. Wow, it's so. I feel touched by what he said. It's especially coming from Purwanto, because that's an amazing musician, and I respect his music so much. It's man, hearing this from you, thank you. Terima kasih banyak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ya, Mas Haji, silakan.
Okay. I want to know about the composition in. Maybe you can tell us about that, about the composition Baliren, and especially from Ineke, Korineke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain that.
Yeah. Okay.
We can play those 2 songs, right, Mark?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Good. Shall I talk first, or do you want to hear him first?
I think you can explain it first.
Yeah, I'll tell him first. Okay, Baliren. In 2011, 2011, we were on Bali. For 5 weeks, we were staying 10 kilometers south of Ubud, Yayasan Purnati, Bali Purnati. And we were working on the music. They said, don't come too early because there's a raining season. So do not come before, I think half of March or April. Don't come too early. So we came, but it was still raining. And then I had a room in a lumbung, in an old rice converted.
Yes.
And there's no windows, just shutters, you know, like shutters. And for the rain, the shutters had to be closed because it was raining in, because it was pouring. It wasn't pouring for one day. It wasn't pouring for 3 days, not for a week, but for 2 weeks. There was only rain. And they said there was not going to be rain. And I was inside working on new music. But it was very dark because the shutters were closed. And after 2 weeks, I started to feel depressed. You know, I felt sad. There's no sun, you know, no only rain. And I heard the rain all the time. And that's when I wrote the song Bali Rain. So it's a bit of a sad song, but it's also joyful, hoping that the rain will stop.
Yeah.
So that's Bali Rain.
Okay.
Yeah. Shorineke. About Shorineke. Shorineke.
But yeah.
Yeah. Shorineke is music which is inspired by Brazilian music. And in Brazil, they have all these types of music like bossa nova, samba, you know, all these kind of things that are popular in Brazilian music. But there's also this sort of music that is called choro. And choro is more like melodic music, but with some more complex harmonies. It's actually very melodic, but with jazz harmonies. And it's also a bit of a samba feel. And I wanted to write a choro for Ineke to study on the piano and to just, you know, enjoy playing a beautiful song. So I wrote this song and I called it, in the beginning, I called it Choro for Ineke. But then in Brazil, if you call a choro a little choro, it's called chorinho. And that sounds almost like Shorineke. And that's why I called it Shorineke. That's it. Nothing more. I played it on 2 guitars.
Really? Nothing more?
Nothing more.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We have some time moment to be distracted again, but I'm sorry for that. But please reconnect again if you disconnected. And I think we are about to listen the Bali Rain. And after that, maybe you can answer the question from Yanti Rangkuti from KLCBS radio station in Bandung. We're gonna explain the question later on. Everybody, let's enjoy the Bali Rain. It's supposed to be like a sad song, but it's also there is another side of the song, that very optimistic side, that hoping the sunshine will be rise again. Ya, kembali bersama saya Agus Setiawan Basuni dan kita masih di program WartaJazz Talks bersama Marc van Vugt, seorang gitaris jazz dari Belanda yang pernah datang ke Indonesia dan sempat berkolaborasi dengan beberapa musisi, salah satunya adalah Purwanto dan Sukojo dari uh, Yogyakarta ya, yang merupakan personil dari Vertigong dan juga Gua Etnika. Oke, kita sudah terkoneksi kembali dengan teman-teman semua. Oke, Mark, we do have a question from Yanti Rangkuti. How would you describe the music you play with universe?
And what does he mean with universe?
Yeah, perhaps because you're talking about the Lonely Coyote. That was like a different landscape. And you were in Bali, you were in the United States. You were, I know one of the songs that you composed has been used for a video from a scenery in a winter time in Alberta, Canada, which is like a, yeah, I mean, almost perfect, like a soundtrack of that video. And I can feel even like with what we just heard now, the Bali rain, it keeps repeated. It's like raindrops that, you know, it's, yeah, I can now suddenly feel that, oh, how miserable in that 2 weeks, yet so inspiring because then it gives you, it allowing you to compose these beautiful compositions, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, it's very important to be inspired if you want to keep creating beautiful art, beautiful music, and I am always looking for that. That is why I travel around the world. I like to meet people. I like to see people. I want to be inspired by different music, and by hearing other cultures and seeing other cultures, and using that as an inspiration for the music. So yes, I hope it comes through the music, and for me, the way I express it is, for instance, on this album, is through my guitar. If I have an orchestra, I will use the orchestra to express that. But now I have to do that with a guitar. So you look for how can I make with my guitar the atmosphere that of when I'm in the field and see the coyote standing there, and then how can I describe that in music? And it's the same with Bali rain. How can I express in the music the rain without having the rain there? There is no rain, and I'm not ticking on my instrument to imitate the rain. I'm trying to do that with the melody and the chords and the rhythm, and also at the same time, you know, express the feeling I have at that moment of depression because it's raining so much. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, to me, it translates very well. I mean, in the process, but
okay, thank you.
Let Yanti to respond in Instagram if it does answer her questions.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're gonna play the Korean right after this.
Okay.
Yeah, speaking about the, you know, the batik and the connection with Purwanto and Yogyakarta and Indonesia. Is there any plan in say coming near future to again coming back to Indonesia and perhaps do some extended tour, not just like in Java, perhaps you also go to Sumatra or Celebes or Borneo, because I think a lot of music lovers over there would love to listen to your music.
Well, first of all, that would be great. Yes. I'm trying to. It's not easy at the moment. I mean, we've all had this whole strange time with COVID and Corona, and you know, the things have been changed so much. So touring has become more difficult. But I'm sure looking into it, I would love to come back. I would love to extend our collaboration with Purwanto, because we only got to collaborate on like 2 songs, and when we played together, we realized that whoa, there's so much potential, and there's so many great ideas that I'd love to do that. And yes, I mean, Indonesia is so big. There's so many people around there, and I'd love to travel around and see more of Indonesia. So yeah, definitely. I'm very open to coming back, and I'm gonna look into how that would be possible, and maybe even collaborate before that already, just to anticipate on that. So
Okay.
I'll have to talk with Purwanto one day to see how we can collaborate again. Absolutely.
Let's ask him right now. You know, we had a chance to.
Well,
Mas Purwanto, barusan saya nanya ke Mark bagaimana kemungkinan ke depan ini, karena tadi Mark juga menjelaskan bahwa dalam kesempatan di 2019 itu hanya sempat ngulik 2 komposisi ya, 2 lagu gitu. Apakah ada kemungkinan atau kita sama-sama menciptakan peluang itu ke depan? Yang seperti tadi kata Mark, untuk mengantisipasi kalau misalnya dia mendapatkan kembali kesempatan untuk bisa datang ke Indonesia. Mungkin dari Mas Purwanto ada gagasan yang mungkin bisa ditawarkan dan
iya. Jadi saya itu seperti paham bagaimana Mark melakukan cara meng-create sebuah komposisi. Perilaku-perilakunya, bagaimana membuat struktur, kemudian tema-tema yang kuat, dengan ruang-ruang yang sangat padat itu saya banget gitu. Seperti saya banget gitu. Jadi kalau nanti misalnya ada peluang dan kesempatan kerjasama, saya pikir secara teknis gitu tidak ada kesulitan. Maksudnya kita sama-sama concern bagaimana sebuah capaian estetika itu harus ditangani dengan serius, karena kita sudah punya formulanya, sehingga kita menurut saya tidak terlalu sulit untuk membuat sebuah capaian seperti itu misalnya.
If I translate correctly, is your approach to the music in creating such a composition is in line in what Purwanto is thinking and doing. So yeah, he welcomes and open up the doors for you to again start communication, and then perhaps in the top of that, it could be something that both of you can develop in the near future. And of course, we are in WartaJazz is pushing this kind of idea. So then,
sure.
Again, communication and dialogue between people of Indonesia and people of Netherlands, represented by both of you, can be strengthened in near future. And most important, even though you already mentioned about that we do live in such a strange situation, I believe some great works is actually coming out from these kind of situations. It is actually a challenge for you guys to come up with something, and then yeah, we can facilitate to communicate, to to establish such a conversation, and then yeah, let's do it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I would really love to do this. There's something special, and I remember that I talked with Purwanto about this when we collaborated. My music is very different from Indonesian traditional music. Also because my music is rooted in European jazz music, and it's harmonically complicated, and if you combine that with percussion, that's easy. But if you combine that with gamelan, it's a very different thing. And I know Purwanto understands this really well, because I noticed that when we collaborated, but also when I listen to Kua Etnica and their projects, I know that he understands really well how to find the balance between the craziness of the complex harmonies of jazz, and on the other hand, the complexity of rhythm and the limitation of the tuning of the gamelan. I mean, and that makes it so exciting. So I'm very curious, very much looking forward to how we could solve that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Could be in a trio, could be in a duo, anything. I'm all open for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I don't need to translate that. I saw Mas Suranto already manggut-manggut, yeah. We say that in Bahasa. So he must be understanding what you're just trying to say. Well, we are speaking more than 60 minutes. It's almost 90 minutes now. I think we still do have like 10 minutes, I guess, something. So before we end up the conversation, I still would like to ask a few questions. But before I do that, Mas Haji, masih ada yang mau ditanyakan mungkin?
Saya kira cukup.
Cukup ya. Okay, so I would like to ask a few questions related to the latest development in industry. Although we may say this not really a new thing, like for example, the artificial intelligence, and then how the digital streaming platform in some countries. Yeah, of course, there's a pros and cons, and I don't want to talk about the pros and cons, but in your perspective, for your own thing, what is your opinion? And in general, what is your comments in the responding to this latest, like a chat GPT and, this kind of stuff that suddenly like a quote unquote trying to taking over some of the of what we were doing, although I don't know. Your comments on that?
Wow. I wasn't prepared for such a question, but that's a good one. Okay. It's interesting. Times change. Technology changes. And I've always embraced these kind of changes because it's just what happens in the world. So I don't think we should stay away from it, but we should be involved. I think maybe it is for us as artists very important to find ways to use this in a good way. Because at this moment, these artificial intelligent programs, if they are being used for art, they only exist by the fact that there are artists of which art is being used by artificial intelligence. So that's sort of it's not really original. It's created by the material of other artists. And that's a sort of a copyright issue as well. But I think at this moment, I think we're in a transitional phase. The way artificial intelligence now is used is mostly to we have to learn how to deal with it. If it's only used to create art that is copied by other, using material of other artists, then I think we're going the wrong way. If it's going to help us to develop our own art, then it could be interesting because it's it's a sort of an intelligence that's like a mirror for us. But it's a difficult thing to you know, it's not easy to find a way in it. It's interesting because I mean, you can have somebody, or you can have artificial ChatGPT write your PR material, and it's really good.
Yes.
So that's interesting.
Well, it is interesting to see your comments on that, and I believe this an endless conversation on these topics. Just like when we talk with the W, I mean, like a World Wide Web being introduced like 20, 30 years ago, and it was something that everybody says is gonna kill all the mediums that we do have, but in fact, it's actually enhancing some of the, for example, it's not really killing the radio, but somehow radio is using, because it's now available also via web. But of course, then apps is being introduced. Apps gonna kill the website, but it's not really kill the website, but again, it's enhancing. Yeah. And it will be adjusted here and there. And just like the jazz, I guess, it's just like a transform from the Creole music to the swing, to the big band, to the, you know, up to what we call probably right now is uncategorized music, because you such a bending the genre a little bit here and there. In the top of that, I would like to know, for such a musicians like you, knowing that every single year there are new musicians that coming up. It's albeit it's being produced by the School of Music, which is many from around the world, and those who are just entering because such a social media like a TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube is allowing you to express yourself, and by pressing the button from your own studio or even using some technology like AI can help transform your simple work into some complicated one. How can you, for example, encourage yourself at the same time encouraging the young musicians to answer such these challenging questions?
Well, can you say again what your question really is? Because maybe I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, my question is, how did you see yourself like to stay relevant? You know, because that's like the big question for everybody right now, while the industry still producing a lot of tremendous albums and musicians and, you know, things like that.
Okay. First of all, I think in art, in general, I think our relevance is there because we think we are relevant. So I am relevant because I am convinced that what I do is relevant. And it should, whether it's relevant or not is not related to what is happening in the rest of the world. It's related to me and the music. I want to create music, and I want to, I think it's important that I make my music and I create my music. And the rest of the world is welcome to listen to it and to appreciate it. And of course, there is a relevance in the world. I mean, if you tour around the world and you have thousands of concerts or something, it's economically relevant for you to do that. But it doesn't change my perspective on my own art. It shouldn't change my perspective on my own art, because the relevance of the world is so much determined by so many things that are happening, and it doesn't say anything about the quality of the music itself. Sometimes it's just luck. And for young musicians growing up in this time, it's very important that they connect to their own feeling about their own music and about their own art, and that they don't do it because they want to be recognized or liked on Facebook or on Instagram or SoundCloud or whatever, because that is sometimes just related to the context you have, the amount of context. And maybe you know somebody who's listening and they will play it, but if they are not, they won't play it. So it's such a chaotic time. I think the relevance is, you have to find the relevance in your own heart, in your own and it's a hard time now because social media is such an influence, and we're having social media guide us too much, maybe in how we look at how valuable we are, and our values should be related to the moment. This what we're doing now.
Well, it's a good point, Mark, that you raised over there. And as I said, we're almost eating up our time, that 90 minutes that we do have. And before we play the last song, again, I would like to thank you very much for your time. It's
Thank
such
you,
a valuable conversation that we do have. Saya juga ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Mas Purwanto yang sudah berkenan untuk bergabung bersama kita dan membagikan sedikit komentar. Dan tentu saja kita menunggu kolaborasi Anda berdua di waktu yang mudah-mudahan tidak terlalu lama lagi ya. My last question to Mark is there anything that you would like to say for any jazz lovers or music lovers out there who probably doesn't know you yet, or tonight they know you finally, and for those who are already coming and listen to your concert the past couple of years that when you're coming over to Indonesia, time is yours.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm very pleased that you invited me to do this talk and to introduce me to the Indonesian people. Concerts are just a small amount of people that you reach. This is a way to reach so many people, and I'm very pleased about that. I welcome everybody to check out my music, check out the album, The Lonely Coyote. It's on Spotify, it's on all the streaming media. It's you can easily find it. It's on YouTube. So feel free to listen to the music. And you know what? If you feel connected, and have questions, you can always contact me through my social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook. You can easily find it. And I hope it's possible to come back to Indonesia and connect with all these great musicians, especially Mr. Purwanto, of course, because I definitely want to continue on a collaboration on Indonesian music. And there's so much collaboration going on at the moment, and there's so many great musicians in Indonesia. I already spoke about Sri Anuraga and Gerald, who we collaborated with as well. And I know Gerald is working on an incredible project at the moment, of which I heard it with him with a large ensemble. And there's yeah, check it all out, and I hope we'll be able to connect somehow in the near future. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aji and Agus.
Ya, thank you very much, Mark. Terima kasih sekali lagi juga untuk Mas Purwanto. Dan teman-teman, Anda bisa menikmati karya Mark. Nanti kita sediakan link di website WartaJazz. Anda bisa baca di sana, dan Anda juga bisa monitor melalui akun Instagram kami ataupun Facebook dan juga Twitter. Dan percakapan ini juga tersedia di laman channel YouTube kami. Dan insya Allah dalam beberapa minggu ke depan karya-karya Mark juga bisa dinikmati untuk Anda yang mendengarkan radio KLCBS. So for those who are just tune in to this right now, you can always come back and watch this conversation again in YouTube. And we're also gonna do a rerun tomorrow morning, 7 or 8 a.m. Jakarta time. So be sure to tune in our Instagram tomorrow morning for the rerun of the program. Thank you for the 48 people who are joining in Instagram. I'm checking out in my mobile phones just now. Thank you, Mbak Yanti Rangkuti, for the questions. I'm sure that you're gonna love the other song as well. Please be sure to check out Marc van Vugt. You just type that Marc van Vugt in Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Saya Agus Setiawan Basuni dari WartaJazz House Gallery yang ada di Jakarta. Mengucapkan terima kasih atas kebersamaan Anda. Dan tentunya ada Mas Aji di Yogyakarta.
Ya, saya Haji Wartono dari WartaJazz Yogyakarta. Ucapan terima kasih atas atensinya semuanya. Dan semoga sehat-sehat semua selalu.
Ya, teman-teman semua, kita akan close program pada malam hari ini dengan memutarkan satu komposisi terakhir pada malam hari ini, yaitu Koreneke. So stay tune, enjoy, dan semoga Anda semua tetap sehat selalu. Sampai jumpa di lain waktu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.